Hi, I'm Ross, and I'm here with my friend Grant, and we are going to be talking about Luca, the latest film from obscure indie animation studio. I believe it's pronounced Pixar.
Pixare. I think
Pixar.
It's foreign. It's
Hey,
foreign.
Pixar.
Yeah.
The last Pixar movie was Soul, right?
It was Onward.
Oh, it was
Soul,
Onward.
It was Soul and then Onward.
Okay, did you see Onward?
I have not seen Onward, but
Me neither.
I have heard good things, and I did really like Soul.
Mona Lisa, why are you smiling?
So Luca is the story of a young sea monster boy named Luca who travels to the small village of something Italian. Something Italian. It's not real. Or
Little
maybe it
Italy
is
town.
real. Little Italy. He goes to Little Italy.
He goes to Little Italy, New York.
You know, he meets another sea monster friend and a human friend. And I mean, honestly, talking about the plot of Luca, it's almost negligible because this movie is not about the plot at all.
I don't even know what this movie is about. This movie is about watching a Pixar movie.
It's about two little boys who want a Vespa.
It's just the greatest thing that humans ever made. The Vespa.
What this movie is really about is vibes, I think is appropriate to say.
Yeah, it's a very feel-good movie.
Yeah, the stakes start low and they stay low, and I think that would turn off some people because this is one of the more, I guess, generic Pixar movies in a way.
Yeah, I mean, technically the stakes are high. There's always the looming, like, the whole thing is he doesn't want to get found out because this fishing town is gonna,
Murder him
and his family and everyone he loves. But it's a Pixar movie. You know it's not going to happen. No one thinks that's going to happen.
Yeah, and in spite of that, I think the adventure still does have some weight because it is about the emotions of a kid kind of discovering themselves and going out into a new world for the first time. I mean, literally in this case, but it's about discovery. It's about friendship. It's about fear as well. The fear of the unknown and parental fear in the B story. And I could see shades of previous Disney and Pixar stories in there. It's a little The Little Mermaid, there's a little Finding Nemo, and a little Call Me By Your Name, which is not a Pixar movie. Nobody's gonna a peach in, like, Onward. As far as I know. I haven't seen Onward, maybe it happens, but...
I think, isn't that movie about, like, pants?
No, that's the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Oh,
too,
okay,
you're thinking
okay.
of.
Well, what if you're in the movie, something romantic?
I would go with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake.
Pixar may not be branching out too wide, but they've tackled monsters before, and this time they are tackling what I think is one of the most horrifying monsters of all, Italian people. And
Oh my gosh.
because the plot is so light and because so little importance is placed on trying to invest you in this story, and it's more about the atmosphere and the emotion, I do think it just kind of goes along until it ends. And while that does make for a nice experience, it doesn't make for a particularly memorable story.
Yeah, in the first act, the movie feels like it's going to be about adventure and him discovering freedom in, like, a coming-of-age tale. But then in the end, he decides that he wants to go to school and be a real boy, and it's... I don't know, it didn't really make sense to me.
It makes sense because he starts the movie kind of wanting to learn about things. I'm not clear on thematically what this movie is actually trying to say about the experiences Luca is going through beyond he is going through them and it'll turn out okay.
Yeah, this movie doesn't really have a whole lot of life for me.
Luca, I need you to punch his heart. That's right, the red thing.
It's hardly a hot take at this point to say that Pixar is good at animating things, but I am consistently impressed between this and Soul just how well they managed to render, like, sunlight and reflections and shadows, and they can really immerse you in this world despite the fact that the characters are so stylized.
Yeah, what does it for me is the hair animation.
Yeah.
Like, as Luca's talking, the little wisps of his hair are just, like, jiggling around.
I love the contrast of the intricacy of the environments they were in. Like, I could almost smell and feel the town as they were walking through it. Like, it looks like real life. It almost looks photorealistic. And then the characters reminded me of, like, Aardman claymation people, almost, with the eyes and the mouths. And it feels very cartoonish and very carefree in a way that matches the atmosphere very well. But again, going back to the story, which is, I think, our major sticking point with why we didn't love this, because there's nothing too remarkable about what these characters go through, you're just kind of focused on these individual moments. There's a lot of funny little moments in this. I think the comedy was good. All the archetypical characters weren't too stock.
The comedy was excellent. In particular, I love the villain, the Vespa boy.
Oh, he was great.
He was amazing.
I didn't quit. They made me stop.
I think that is worse.
No twist or no reveal in this movie feels like it's trying to be grand. Nothing feels like it's trying to surprise you or trying to blow your mind, and that works for this.
Yeah.
It's very calming. It's very peaceful overall. It's just a nice... It's like a warm hug.
That's just the type of movie it is. And if you go in expecting some grandiose adventure like Nemo we were talking about earlier, that's not what you're gonna get here.
You can see that in the B story, which almost feels like an afterthought because it's just two adults throwing water on children occasionally, and that's all that happens with the parents' plot line.
Yeah, this movie slowed down a little bit too much for my liking after the first act. Like, making it to the final race was a bit of a slog.
Mm-hmm. It almost feels repetitive in the middle when it becomes about the two friends growing apart, and they do a good job of building up that friendship in the first place, and they do a decent job of tearing it down.
The two boys' friendship was missing like maybe one or two more character beats for me.
Wait, what if we visit her there?
Why would you want to do that?
It was a little depressing to see that Disney just kind of threw these new Pixar movies on Disney+. I mean, obviously, I wish that Pixar had more control over what movies they made and how often they had to make them, like the good old days, but Disney owns them now, which means they have to put out 2 a year or they get shut down, so... We're going to get lower tier stuff like this, but even the lower tier Pixar stuff is still solid and watchable and really fun. And I would take this over another Despicable Me movie, you know? Even if you don't like it, you're not going to like hate it. There's nothing to hate about this movie.
It is a very timely movie. These type of feel-good children's animated films are like food for the soul.
The soul. There's nothing in particular I dislike about it, but there's also nothing I love.
Silencio Bruno!
Silencio Bruno!
Can you still hear him?
Nope, just you!
My favorite part of this movie is when Luca and his buddy are building Vespas in the very beginning and sort of building that friendship.
The relationship between Luca and Alberto does feel very genuine, and I like movies about genuine male friendship. There's a hole in the market for movies about like just sea monster dudes being sea monster guys, you know? Just hanging out, just building Vespas and f***ing around. Even when Pixar is okay, it's still pretty good, you know?
This is a simple, fun family movie done adequately.
I think people who are a little more cynical about Pixar and animated movies feel like, oh, people just don't like the new ones because they're adults now or whatever, but it does feel like Pixar is being a little diluted because they're being forced to pump out new movies all the time. It's not just age.
I would say safe. Safe is the word I would go with.
Yeah, it is difficult to talk about movies that land right in the middle like this because when I love a movie, I just talk about all the things I love. When I hate one, it's all the things I hate. But when I just kind of like everything and everything is fine, that's all I can really say.
I have zero hot takes about Luca. I mean, I would say if you think Luca is the best animated movie this year, that would be a hot take.
And if you like Luca more than Mitchell's vs. the Machines, I will fight you outside. If you would like to defend Luca's honor with your fists, join me Patreon, my boy.
Grazie. Mom, what are you doing here? I come to town most weekends.
This movie ends with Luca going off to school away from this town with Julia. And in the credits, it's implied that he, sort of reveals himself as a sea monster. How long do you think it took for the Italian government to track him down and dissect him?
They did not expand on the universe or lore of Luca at all, and I feel like that's why, because they would have to get into what would actually happen if people found out they couldn't really have this ending.
If Pixar ever does do a sequel to Luca, I would want it to be like a very intense drama about Luca being torn apart by the government and studied, and just the whole sea monster society being killed and enslaved, probably forced to do labor underground on like oil rigs,
Alberto's being picked apart in a lab.
Yeah. How effectively could sea monsters be militarized, That would be the generic blockbuster sequel.
I mean, they would make the perfect spies. I mean, as soon as they go on land, they shed their scales and they can,
In many ways, Luca is the perfect soldier.
Put that down, Piccoletto.
Luca is fine, as it says at the end of the movie. Fine. It's just fine.
Spoiler alert. He's a sea monster. I don't know. Is there any way you could spoil this movie? I feel like it's unspoilable.
Which is good.
You could tell someone any single fact about this movie and it won't ruin it for them because they already know everything that happens.
Yeah.
In conclusion, a very good advertisement for Vespa.
Yeah.
And that is what this movie is.